Do you feel like you have tried everything to manage your anxiety, but you are still struggling? The reason is most likely because you are focusing on short-term anxiety strategies that only help you in the moment, but may not be effective in solving anxiety long-term. There are many ways we try and make ourselves feel better when we are anxious, but they don't help us solve the actual problem. Behavioral responses to anxiety, like avoidance, may provide temporary relief, but it doesn't allow you to find a lasting treatment for your anxiety. When we avoid a situation we are afraid of, it only reinforces that fear, and we never learn to actually overcome it. It can lead to a continuous cycle of avoidance and impact quality of life. When we are in an uncomfortable, anxiety-provoking situation, we look for ways to quickly alleviate the anxiety, like using distraction or even turning to substances like alcohol. These are just cover-ups that don't actually solve the underlying issue. For example, when we put a piece of putty on a pipe that's leaking in our house, we may only temporarily solve the problem, but it is not a long-term fix. This is just masking the actual problem. You are still left with a leak, which will only get worse. One of my clients, Gabby, was really struggling with intense anxiety. She would freeze and panic when attending crowded events and would avoid going out with her group of friends because she was afraid of fainting and feeling dizzy. Gabby was afraid that something terrible would happen to her, with so many strangers around. She felt okay when close friends and family would come over, but the thought of attending crowded social events would cause her high stress. Even with friends, Gabby still felt a sense of social anxiety where she would worry if what she said in front of others sounded silly. She would feel awkward and want to leave events early. Gabby would spend a lot of time on the internet researching ways to make her anxiety go away. She tried to avoid her triggers and even resorted to drinking before bed, but her anxiety kept coming back. Gabby felt like she just had to learn to deal with her anxiety as it came, and this led to even more negative thoughts and made her feel more depressed. Can you relate to how Gabby was feeling? If the answer is yes, keep watching. All this time, Gabby was relying on coping skills to deal with her anxiety. However, simply coping with anxiety only works for the short term. In this video, I will share with you breakthrough lifestyle habits that will fix anxiety long term. If you follow these methods, it will calm your anxiety so you can attract more joy, peace, and happiness into your life. In this episode, I will explain the long-term treatments that fix the root cause of anxiety. The goal is to move from a temporary band-aid solution that only masks the problem, like turning to alcohol and avoiding people, places, and things, to a more sustainable solution, like developing maintenance skills that helps us in the long run. Long-term solutions are about healing and repairing. But before we get into that, let's look at some examples of short-term techniques for dealing with anxiety. One common short-term coping mechanism is avoidance. This is avoiding things like crowded spaces or speaking in front of others, avoiding things that make you anxious. Another one is numbing behaviors. These are actions people do to avoid feeling discomfort, stress, and anxiety. Some numbing behaviors include substance use, overeating, and excessive media use. So here are some questions to ask yourself. What are some things that fuel your anxiety? And what type of short-term behavior made you feel better in the moment? Then I want you to ask yourself, how long was it until my anxiety returned? Now that we gave it some thought on how we deal with anxiety using short-term approaches, let's move on to some long-term solutions for anxiety. These include resolving skills. Resolving skills or long-term skills for anxiety address the root causes and they make life changes that are sustainable. Some examples of resolving skills are grounding techniques. The next time you're outside, try and name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. This is a way of staying in the present moment. Another example is cognitive restructuring. which is changing our thoughts. We can do breathing exercises, mindfulness, even engaging in meaningful activities like taking a walk, speaking to a friend, and painting. Some other ways to begin healing from anxiety is by keeping an anxiety journal or thought record. This provides us with an outline of triggers, thoughts, and emotions, and skills we can use to overcome challenging times. Another important one is physical health maintenance, which includes sleep, exercise, and diet. Another important skill is turning to professional tools and support groups, such as speaking to a therapist, coach, or mentor. These act as a support team to help better yourself. Another important resolving skill is sharing your concerns with a friend or family member you trust. Also, limiting the amount of time we spend on social media, because comparing can make anxiety worse. So, behavioral changes is another very important one. When we replace old habits with new ones that make us feel better mentally, physically, and emotionally, like talking it through with a friend, having that support system, exercising, which is a natural mood booster, and taking new learning skills, we are able to become more confident in solving problems. It does take more commitment and discipline to create lifestyle changes that improve our well-being long-term. So this does mean facing your fears, restructuring your mindset, and engaging in self-care and seeking professional help. Now I want to talk about the benefits of long-term skills for overcoming anxiety. When we choose to include a lifestyle change, which is what long-term skills is about, it provides us with confidence that we are able to problem solve. Also, the benefit is we learn and grow from past experiences. When you look back and see how you dealt with problems in the past and see the massive improvement in how you deal with challenging times now, you change your cognitive restructuring and self-belief. This strengthens our mind and core beliefs. When Gabby decided to take on new hobbies she wasn't doing before, like taking courses and speaking to a coach about the challenges she was facing, this is an example of how she was taking action to better herself. She started to exercise every day by taking walks. She stopped drinking before bed and looked forward to starting the next day. Gabby started to have systems in place that helped her take care of her mind and body. The answer to resolving your anxiety is to focus on ways we can improve how we feel and deal with situations. Developing long-term skills for anxiety has lasting benefits to heal our minds and bodies. Short-term goals like avoidance and setting limitations on places you go and people you see may ease the anxiety temporarily because you are not facing the situation head-on. However, this doesn't actually fix the root of the problem. When we learn skills like mindfulness, which is exercises that help us focus on the present moment, and cognitive restructuring, which is going from telling ourselves there is no hope to I have the ability to change how I feel, makes us become more resilient, confident, and attract more joy into our lives. These skills are learned. You are able to handle anxious situations because you are facing them and won't be overwhelmed by them in the future. After learning to develop these skills, Gabby was able to attend social gatherings again. She saw an improvement in her mood, her motivation, her desires, and noticed more calm in her mind and body. Let's get into some of the long-term skills you can start to work towards and start living an overall healthier life and start repairing anxious thoughts and feelings. Here, I grouped them into categories so you can have a clear picture on areas to focus on. So, the first category is cognitive restructuring. This is where we challenge distorted thoughts and convert them into more rational, helpful thoughts that can motivate us in the right direction. The second category is mindfulness and meditation. These are skills that we learn to stay in the present and not allow past and future thoughts to affect us. Examples like listening to mindfulness videos, focusing on our senses, and surroundings like the grounding technique. The third and very important category is also a crucial life skill that is helpful in lowering stress and emotional reactions. Our emotions can really determine how we feel. When we have strong emotions like anger and sadness, it can really stop us from going where we want to go, and it really puts a damper on our mood, and it can really demotivate us and hold us back. The next category is self-compassion. Positive self-talk and kind words to yourself. It really increases your confidence and it helps us feel calmer overall. All right, the next one is behavioral activation. This is about engaging in new behaviors that allow you to deal with anxiety in the future, like breaking the cycle of avoidance and engaging in activities even when you feel anxious, so they stop feeling overwhelming in the future. After following a lot of these steps, Gabby started to go places where she would avoid before. She started going to crowded events. She started speaking more freely in front of family and friends. So it was a big improvement for her. All these methods are long-term lifestyle habits that are about building a sustainable routine and feeling confident that positive change is possible. I hope that watching this video helps you think differently about anxiety and helps bring awareness that you are not alone and you are not stuck. These are helpful long-term solutions in repairing our anxiety. When we move from simply just coping with anxiety to actually fixing it with lasting long-term skills, we are able to move forward and create a positive transformation in our lives and attract more joy, peace, and happiness. Thank you for watching and take care of yourself.